Beneath the spotlight and the standing ovations, a quiet strength was forged in Vince Gill long before the world ever knew his name. In every soaring melody and gentle lyric, there are threads pulled from the most private corners of his heart, echoes of pain that time never erased, and the silent power of choosing love, grace, and truth even when the world offered chaos instead. Can one voice carry the weight of a childhood heartbreak, a brother's fading presence, a love that nearly broke apart a legacy, and still sing with hope? Can a man hold so much sorrow in his hands and still offer comfort to millions with just a song? Vince Gill didn't set out to be a star. But through tragedy, restraint, and years of quiet resilience, he became something deeper. A storyteller whose greatest stage has always been the soul. Long before the awards and applause, before his name would be etched beside 22 Grammy wins and countless country music milestones, Vince Gill was just a young boy with a guitar in Norman, Oklahoma. At 11, his life was full of the little joys most kids take for granted. Shared meals, school days, music with his father, and the safety of family. His dad, J. Stanley Gill, was a federal judge and amateur musician who shared his son's love for melodies. Their home echoed with the sound of simple tunes on Vince's 4-string tenor guitar, creating early memories of connection through music. But that soft rhythm of a content childhood shattered with one devastating phone call. Vince's older half-brother, Bob, had been in a terrible car accident. What followed was 3 long months of limbo, with Bob lying in a coma and the family's hope hanging by a thread. When Bob finally woke, it wasn't to healing, it was to a new, cruel reality. Brain damage had left him unable to speak, care for himself, or return to the world he once knew. For Vince, this was more than a personal loss. It was a deep, lingering wound. Bob had once been his companion in joy and mischief, and now he was a ghost in his own body. Watching his mother quietly grieve a son who still breathed but was forever changed created a lasting ache in Vince's soul, one that would later color his music with an honesty and depth that fame couldn't manufacture. Bob remained in that condition for 25 years before passing in 1993. That same year, Vince released a Christmas album titled Let There Be Peace on Earth, a work soaked in emotional weight. One track in particular, It Won't Be the Same This Year, seemed to echo a lifetime of longing, for the brother he lost while still a child, and for the innocence grief had taken away. Vince once said that every time he sings it, he sees that young boy again, the one who learned far too early what it meant to carry a quiet sorrow. Despite these early emotional scars, Vince's path into the music industry began to take shape in the 1980s. With talent that couldn't be ignored, he gained a reputation in Nashville as an exceptional guitarist and vocalist, even joining the band Pure Prairie League for a time. His solo career started with promise, but early albums like The Things That Matter and The Way Back Home met only modest success. Critics praised his voice. Fellow musicians respected his craft. But he wasn't charting big hits and was dangerously close to becoming one of those artists everyone liked but no one remembered. Then came a chance most musicians could only dream of. Mark Knopfler of Dire Straits, the same band filling stadiums across the world, personally invited Vince to join as a full member. It was the kind of invitation that could launch someone from respected to legendary in a single tour. But Vince didn't say yes. Instead, he did something that left even his peers stunned. He walked away. He feared that joining such a massive rock act would cost him his identity, that he'd never get to tell his own stories in his own voice. Most artists would have chased the spotlight, but Vince chose silence over surrender. He stuck to the small stages and long nights of uncertainty. And eventually, fate rewarded him. When I Call Your Name was released not long after, and it changed everything. The title track, a soft, aching ballad filled with regret and vulnerability, won him his first Grammy and launched him into mainstream country music. He'd taken the harder road, and it had paid off. Years later, he said that he'd rather be himself in a small club than lose himself in a sold-out arena. That choice wasn't about ego, it was about truth. Still, even as his music soared, Vince's personal life veered into complicated territory. In December 1993, while filming a Christmas special in Tulsa, he met Amy Grant, the reigning queen of Christian pop. Their first interaction wasn't electric. It was simply human. Amy was visibly stressed and Vince gently told her, "Hey, unknit that brow. It's going to be okay." Those few words broke through something. Their voices harmonized effortlessly during the performance, creating a moment so natural it felt like destiny had whispered something neither of them fully understood. Over the following years, their paths kept crossing, through holiday shows, mutual admiration, and a shared duet on Amy's album House of Love. But they were both married. Vince to Janice Oliver, and Amy to Gary Chapman. Both marriages were fraying quietly under the pressure of fame and distance, but neither Vince nor Amy acted recklessly. Amy would later say they were just two people trying to be faithful. Still, rumors swirled. Whispers turned into scandal. When Vince and Janice divorced in 1997 and Amy followed with her divorce in 1999, judgment came swiftly, especially for Amy. Her Christian fanbase reacted harshly. Radio stations dropped her music, and critics painted her as someone who had betrayed her values. Vince bore quieter criticism, but he too felt the sting of assumptions that their love had come from recklessness, not endurance. Yet through it all, they remained devoted to each other. They married quietly in March 2000, surrounded only by close friends and family. It wasn't a fairy tale wedding. It was something better. A moment of healing. A promise made not in spectacle but in sincerity. They'd both been through fire and emerged not as idealized icons but as deeply human partners who had finally found peace. Professionally, Vince's next chapter came from an unexpected place, the world of rock. After the 2016 death of Glenn Frey, the Eagles seemed on the brink of ending. Don Henley doubted whether they could go on without their co-founder. But when manager Irving Ossoff reached out to Vince with an invitation to join the new Eagles lineup alongside Glenn's son, Deacon Frey, Vince didn't hesitate. His respect for the band went far beyond fandom. He had admired them for years, even performing their songs in tribute shows. Joining the Eagles wasn't about replacing anyone. It was about honoring legacy. In 2017, the band debuted its new lineup, with Vince taking the stage in front of over 50,000 fans at Dodger Stadium. He didn't try to be Glenn Frey. He just aimed to be respectful. Critics were skeptical, but audiences responded with standing ovations and tears. Don Henley later said, "He knows how to be in a band." That simple phrase meant everything. Still, Vince heard the criticism. Some fans called the new lineup a tribute act. Others thought a country singer didn't belong. But Vince stayed focused, not on the noise, but on the music. Then came another chapter, more personal and painful than any review. In 2020, during what was supposed to be a routine checkup, Amy was diagnosed with a rare heart defect that required open-heart surgery. The operation was successful, but recovery was slow and painful. Because of COVID-19 restrictions, Vince couldn't be with her during the early hospital days. When he finally could, he dropped everything to support her. His world stopped. He sat by her side, cheered her through healing, and became her emotional anchor. Amy later said that his love got her through it. But just as they were finding calm again, tragedy returned. In July 2022, Amy was in a bicycle accident. Despite wearing a helmet, she suffered a traumatic brain injury. She lost consciousness, struggled with memory, and faced a long recovery. Vince canceled shows immediately, saying, "No stage matters more than seeing her well again." He didn't just say the words. He lived them. His song When My Amy Prays, written long before the accident, took on new life. It became a hymn of devotion, a reflection of their bond. For Vince, love wasn't just lyrics, it was action, care, and presence. Now at 67, Vince Gill could easily rest on his legacy. But he doesn't. He continues to write music not for fame, but for meaning. Songs like Forever Changed, inspired by stories of abuse, carry messages of empathy and comfort. He gives voice to those who can't always speak, offering listeners not just entertainment but healing. Tracks like Worlds Apart and My Kind of Woman, My Kind of Man show a man who understands life's contradictions, its quiet grief and its gentle joy. Vince chooses collaborators based on connection, not chart position. He turns down shortcuts. He still plays small rooms. And he still believes in telling the truth, even when it hurts. Through decades of loss, love, and renewal, Vince Gill has shown that music can be more than sound. It can be a bridge between hearts. It can be the voice of a child who lost his brother. The quiet refusal to be someone else for fame. The hand held tightly beside a hospital bed. His songs aren't just hits. They are windows into a life lived fully, painfully, beautifully. In every note, he reminds us that sorrow can be sacred, and that true love sometimes arrives not in grand gestures but in quiet, steady presence. Vince Gill's story is not just about music. It's about resilience. About being brave enough to feel everything, and kind enough to turn it into something that helps others heal too. If Vince Gill's voice has ever made you pause, reflect, or feel less alone, share the song that touched you most in the comments. And if this story moved you, don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more powerful stories from the lives behind the music.